If you have any strange or scary stories you'd like to share with the channel, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And of course, thank you. Hello, Raven. This experience spans across not just this lifetime, but also past ones. If I were to dive into all the details at once, we would be here all day. So, I'll break things down into individual stories for clarity. For some context, I'm adopted. My adoptive parents were already in their 60s when they officially brought me into their family. There's a weird coincidence regarding my last name that I always found interesting. My biological last name is almost identical to my adoptive last name, with just 2 letters difference. In my biological surname, the last 2 letters are LL, while my adoptive last name ends with TT. Aside from that small detail, the spelling of the names is exactly the same. It's a strange fact that has always stuck with me, though it has no bearing on what I'm about to tell you. My story took a significant turn when I was 14 years old. That is when my adoptive parents lost custody of me. This didn't come out of nowhere. The emotional neglect had started long before. When I was about 8, my older sister began having children. My parents, now also grandparents, became preoccupied with their new roles. I felt like I was forgotten, emotionally neglected as their attention shifted towards their grandkids. It's hard enough being a kid without feeling invisible in your own home. This had a negative impact on me as I grew up, especially as I was always an outsider at school. I was that weird kid, not because of anything specific I did, but just because that's how people saw me. Things shifted more dramatically when I reached the last year of middle school. That's when I started to delve into the occult. I had always held unconventional beliefs. Aliens, reincarnation, things that made my parents uneasy to say the least. They were completely against anything even remotely associated with the occult or supernatural. But for me, it was something that felt right. Something I was drawn to. I believe that this early interest in the occult opened me up to a broader understanding of the world, including the possibility of alternate realities. I didn't realize it fully at the time, but I had started interacting with these other dimensions, other timelines. Fast forward to 2020, the pandemic hit, and like many others, I found myself turning inward, revisiting old interests. I began actively attempting to connect with alternate realities again, and things became much more vivid than they had been in my teenage years. This brings me to an experience that happened just the other night, one that still lingers in my mind because of how real it felt. I was attempting one of my usual shifts to a different reality. It was late, and I remember everything clearly. I found myself on an Amtrak train, knowing that it would stop in my hometown soon. I could feel the texture of the high heels I was wearing, and I remember glancing at the clock. It was around 9:30 p.m. Snow covered the ground outside. The cold crispness of winter was unmistakable. The clarity of the details made it impossible to write it off as just a dream. I knew that I wasn't dreaming. When the train stopped, I made my way to the path that runs between my neighbor's backyard and mine. I walked through the familiar door in the garage that leads directly into the kitchen. As I stepped inside, I was immediately met with the comforting, almost haunting sight of my adoptive father making popcorn. He was preparing to settle in for the evening, ready to watch TV until he inevitably fell asleep in his chair, just like he used to. My mother was there too, fussing over the dishes with the same meticulous attention to detail she always had. It was as if nothing had changed, as if I had stepped back into a perfectly preserved moment in time. And then there was Jane, my parents' neighbor. I'll call her that for now. I knew instantly that this was sometime in the early 2000s. Likely November based on the snow and the atmosphere in the room. My phone, however, displayed the date and time from the reality I had just left. It was August 2024, past 11 p.m. Confused and feeling slightly disoriented, I asked Jane what year it was. The way that she looked at me, it was as if she didn't quite understand my question. Like I was asking something ridiculous. For a moment, I wondered if she could even see me at all, or if, perhaps, I had crossed over in a way that rendered me invisible to her. Feeling increasingly unsettled, I walked through the house, making my way to what had once been the computer room and finally into my old bedroom. This was the room that I had painted a vivid lime green in high school. We had also rearranged the furniture so that a TV and stand took the place of my keyboard in front of the window, facing the woods. But as I entered the room in this reality, it was different. The walls were their original pale lilac color, and my keyboard was still sitting in its old spot, right by the window. It was clear to me then that I was in a time before 2006, before my high school years. Despite the strangeness of it all, a deep sense of relaxation washed over me as I laid down in my bed. I could feel myself sinking into a kind of peace, the kind that only comes when everything else feels familiar and safe, even if it's in an unfamiliar time. I texted my significant other, knowing they would catch up with me soon, and as I drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of completion. When I woke up, it was as if I had traveled through time again, only this time I was back in the present, in my best friend's room, lying in the corner, fully back to my current reality. I'm still processing everything, but I know one thing for sure. What happened that night was not a dream. It was something more. I don't really know how this is possible, but I hope someone has an explanation for this. So, we're 9th graders, and basically there is a program in our school where only 10 people can go to. You can sign up if you want to, it was your choice. So basically, you sign up to go to the university to get lectures about biophysics on the 4th class instead of art class. So I signed up, of course, and my friend too. The signing up was 4 weeks ago. So, the university is like a big castle. Really old, and the inside is old too. You can look it up on Google. Just search Klaipėdos Universitatis. So, the first time we all went there, we had a chill 20-minute lecture and then we could go. The second week we went near the door. It was room 213, second floor. The lector didn't even come and the door was locked. So, we went home. And it turned out that he was sick that day. Now, today is the 3rd week. Me and my friends meet up. We went to the university from our school. It's like 2 kilometers away. So the lecture starts in a small classroom at 10:55. The 3rd class ended at 10:35, so we had 20 minutes. We came to the university. Near the door, it was 10:50 exactly, I remember. The door was still locked. I looked out the window to see if anyone was coming, but there was no one in sight. Then, 1 minute later, 2 other classmates came. Then we sat in the hallway chairs to wait. There was also an old man painting the walls with white paint on a ladder. Then the lector came and unlocked the door, and it was 10:55. We went in. 2 minutes later, 2 other classmates come in too, so there was about 4 absent people. The lector didn't lock the door just in case somebody was late. Then the lecture was for around 20 minutes or so. It ended and we went back to school. As I was walking, I decided to check my class group chat. I usually keep it muted since they talk too much BS and so forth. I didn't want to get into that. So I see my classmate that didn't come to class, and another girl saying on the group chat, is the lecture even going to happen? And that they just decided to go home since it wasn't. Then I said that the lecture happened. The guy, the classmate that missed the lecture, said that the door was locked and that no one was there. So here's the part where it all happens. We go back to the school, and our friend is asking why we didn't tell him that the lecture happened. I actually didn't even look at the chat since I kept it muted, so I explained that me and my other friend were there at 10:50 checking to see if the door was locked, and I was looking out the window. The guy was confused. He said that at exactly 10:50 he checked too, to see if the door was open, but we were there at 10:50 checking it too. At 10:55 the lector came in and unlocked it. The guy said that at 10:55 he checked again and it was locked. It was, but at 10:55 the lector had opened the door. So he double checks to see if he's at the right room. And it was. Room 213 at 10:55. But the door was locked for him. So basically I'm going to tell this part from his perspective. At 10:50, he came near the 213 room. No one was in the hallway. Didn't even hear anyone walking up the stairs or anything, just pure silence. He tried opening the door, but it was locked. So he went to the third floor to double check. Maybe the other classmates were waiting there. No one was there. So when it was 2:57, he went to the second floor again and checked if room 213 was locked. And it was. He didn't hear anyone talking there or anyone at all in the hallways. Then he basically exited the university. Now, back to my perspective. At 10:50, I was with my friend checking to see if the door was locked, and it was. At 10:47, I was looking outside the window to see if anyone was coming to the university, and no one was in sight. Then, also at 10:50, we saw the ladder guy painting the walls. At 10:55, the lector came and opened the door. We went inside, and the lector did not lock the door. At about 10:57, my other classmates came in. So, to sum it up, the other guy, the lost classmate, didn't even see anyone at the university. He didn't see us at the exact time. He didn't see the ladder guy either. And he didn't see my other friends walking upstairs at 10:57, as he would have been walking downstairs. And if you think that he was BSing, the other classmate girls were with him, and they all agreed with what he said, so it seems true. He double-checked the room. It was the right one. The same big table in the hallway, too. He was in the same place as we were, standing at the exact same time. Yet, he didn't even hear or see us. And we didn't see the lost guy or the girls. Me and my friends couldn't even hear them walking the stairs or talking. He didn't either. That's it. Were we in a parallel world, a multiverse of some sort? I really would like an explanation. Oh, and I forgot to add, about somewhere at 10:55, he was checking if the door was closed or not. But we were, at that time, in the classroom, and the door was unlocked. We didn't even hear if he was trying to open it. And then I had this thought, what if I looked at the chat at 10:55 and had sent him a photo of me and my friends at the door? But then also he would have sent that he and his classmates were near the door. Hey Raven, I've come across your podcast recently and I've been binge watching it, and it made me think of several incidents in my life that made me think that I've switched realities, or have had glitches, or even died and switched my consciousness into another me. I'll send in others later, but this one just came to me now. This story is one where I think that I switched realities. So when I was younger, my older sister and younger brother and I would play The Floor is Lava, before we ever knew it was going to be a thing. We were all born in the 90s. My sister in 90, myself 93, and my brother in 96. Anyway, my brother came up with this game where we had to stay off the floor, basically. He had a blue car bed when we were younger, so he would take the mattress out and place it somewhere on the floor, and a few other objects as well. We could only touch the objects in the floor and walk around the frame of the car bed, as the floor was lava. But his words were, "You fall into the fire and melt." Basically, something a 3-year-old would initially say. We played this game for years. We all have kids now in present 2024. She has 5, I have 2, and my brother has 1. One day at my sister's house, my kids and her kids were playing. I walked down the hall and saw them playing the exact same game that we all played as a child. This is where it starts to get freaky. My sister has 3 boys. The youngest is the same age as my son. He had a Thomas the Train bed, kind of like my brother's blue car bed, and they were doing the exact same thing as we were as kids. They took the mattress off out of the big plastic frame, placed it on the floor with a few other items, and were playing the floor is lava, just like we used to. I explained to them the same story I told you in the beginning, the one of my brother inventing the floor is lava when he was 3, how we all played the game until we were almost teenagers, even outside when we got bigger, and we all laughed and thought it was a coincidence just because it's a TV show now. And my sisters just so happened to buy a similar bed for my nephew as my mother did for my brother when we were young. I walked up the hall laughing, and I went to tell my sister how funny it was that they were doing the exact same thing that we used to do as kids. She asked me what I meant. I told her how they were playing, air quote, the floor is lava, the game that my brother invented when we were kids, and she had no idea what I was talking about. I was confused, so I explained. Do you not remember when we would come up with games as kids? And my brother's name invented the game where we couldn't touch the floor or we would fall into the fire and melt. And now there's a TV show called The Floor is Lava. The kids upstairs are playing it just like we used to on my brother's name's car bed. They took the mattress off and walked around the frame just like we did on his blue car bed. She said, his bed was red, not blue, and we never played Fall in the Fire and Melt. I said, yes we did, because you would always push me in on purpose to win. She doesn't remember. I even have a scar on my knee from her pushing me once as a kid while we were outside playing to win, and I cut my knee. She doesn't even remember me getting the scar. I'm totally convinced that I've swapped realities more than once, but as I was listening to your podcast, this one popped into my head, and I had to write it down immediately. I know a lot of people may think it's not a big deal, or maybe I dreamed it, or I'm just crazy. But I remember playing this as kids. I even have that scar from the game, and my sister doesn't remember it at all. I don't talk to my brother at the moment, so I haven't been able to ask him about this since it's happened, for literally proof that I'm not just making it up. Or that she's just faking not remembering. But this happens a lot more than you would think. I'll go to my sister and ask, do you remember such and such from when we were kids? And some things she remembers, but some she just doesn't. I've come to this conclusion that she either picks and chooses what she tells me that she remembers, because some things can be embarrassing and she just doesn't want to admit it, or I switched realities. Does anyone have anything like this that's happened to them, or have an explanation? It's not only for the facet that my sister never remembers a lot of memories that I have from our childhood, but also, how would I remember my brother making up a game in 1999 when he was 3 that is now a popular TV show today? I'm still mind blown. Hi, Raven. Thank you for giving me a platform to share my experience that I believe was a glimpse into an alternate reality. This happened back in Indonesia when I was in my early 20s. I'm 50 years old now. I went for a job interview at a company I worked for before I came to the US. I wanted to paint a picture of the location of the offices first because it's very relevant to what I experienced. The offices were on the second floor of a private house that was owned by one of the owners of the company. The office section was completely blocked off from the private residential sections, so no access to their house from the office section. The stairs to the office were located outside the house, where the parking lot was. At the top of the stairs was a long balcony to the right. The left side of that balcony was the employee's office. To the left of the stairs was a door. As soon as the door was opened, there was a narrow hallway to the right, so you'd be facing a wall, and then you would have to turn right immediately to go through that hallway. This is where the glimpse happened. When I came for the interview with the president of the company, Mr. Robert, my soon-to-be supervisor was walking me to his office, which was through that door and hallway. As soon as she, my supervisor, opens the door, I clearly see a door right where the wall was. Since it was my first time there, I didn't know and didn't think anything special about it. After I got hired, yay, a few months later a new girl, Sylvia, was hired to be Mr. Roberts' assistant. A few months after she started, a few of us were talking during our lunch break when Sylvia randomly asks no one in particular where the door that's in that hallway right when you open the door on the top of the stairs leads to. No one except me knew what she was talking about. So I told them that it's right there. I was curious too. Needless to say, everyone thinks that both myself and Sylvia are delusional. So, yeah, that was mine and Sylvia's experience in getting the glimpse of an alternate reality where there's a door in that hallway, whereas in this reality, there's only a wall. I've always thought there was something strange about airplanes, airports, and flying in general. I know not every single pilot or passenger has weird stories to tell, but many do, trust me. I'm not afraid of flying, although taking off and landing can be a little creepy. This glitch isn't scary because it happened on a plane. It's scary because of what was happening to myself in that alternate reality. Let me start off by admitting that I did have some wine while waiting for our flight, but I was in no way intoxicated. We'd also eaten dinner, so it was just a slight buzz for me, and at that point, I was just ready to get home. Yes, before anyone asks, this is the blind parallel glitch girl again, and this story puts my last one to shame. Anyway, it was about 10 minutes to take off, and I had to use the restroom. I head back there, and after I close and lock the door, I suddenly get very anxious. I feel like the walls are closing in around me, which is unusual. I'm never claustrophobic. Ever. I'm washing my hands by this point, but as I'm reaching for the door, the plane shifts slightly. Then, suddenly, I can feel myself dropping. People are screaming and stuff starts falling, and then I hear it. My voice. But I'm not the one speaking or crying out, rather it's another me. Oh god, please, no, I don't want to die. I'm only 36. And what about my parents and everyone else? No, God, please fix this plane. I want to go home. What's going on? I scream. And suddenly her voice, or the other me's tone of voice, completely changes. What are you doing here? You scared me enough by popping up in my living room. You know, if God is about to take me... Her voice trails off as the plane started to shake more and more violently. Neither one of us could speak at this time. I hear more screaming and crying, and the pilot says, "Prepare for an emergency landing." "Emergency?" she yelled. "You mean an effing crash landing? And now you're gonna die too, other me." I couldn't say anything, so I just reached my hand out until I found her. I didn't know what else to do but accept my fate, and put my arms around her and hug her in our last moments. My heart was full of sadness. My family would be looking for me and I'd be gone. I finally speak to her. How did you know it was me? Neither one of us can see. Are you heading back to Georgia from seeing your new niece too? Yes, but they had a nephew. And I heard you say something about finding paper towels. I couldn't find them either. We had just taken off. The flight attendant just gave us the okay, then I don't know. Something happened. The weather's perfect though, so what's happening? She started crying again at this point. Look, it's gonna be alright. I don't know how, but it is. I'm sorry I frightened you back in the living room, but you should know that I didn't do it on my own. Something just kind of happened, like now. My family's probably looking for me and we're on the wrong damn plane, but I have to know something. Are you happy and healthy? Well, I'm happy, but not super healthy. I've had some health issues over the years and nearly lost my life. You? She asked me. I'm working on the happiness thing, and my health could use some improvements. Well, I hope you can escape this. You deserve something better, she whispered. We then talked for about 30 more seconds. Then, we prepared. I pushed her against the small wall and we both started screaming again. And then, I was back in the correct bathroom, on the right plane. My heart was racing and I realized there were tears streaming down my face. I cleaned myself up as best as I could and opened the door. Are you okay? My mom asked. Yeah, I don't think dinner sat right with me. I lied. There's no way she would have believed me. I sit back down and the flight home is as smooth as it could be. But later, my aunt called me, saying she had the worst dream about a plane crashing due to a malfunctioning engine. She said there were only 5 survivors, including a 30-something blind woman pressed against a wall in the bathroom. The woman claimed that a good force held her in place, and she was eternally grateful that God allowed her a second chance. When they finally said who the woman was, my aunt nearly fell out of the chair. The woman was myself, in a glittery sweatsuit with matching sneakers. I told her part of my experience. We both know that it was divine intervention, and now I believe God kept me alive through those health issues for a reason. The unique experiences he gives me are for the good of those around me, and even myself in a strange way. She said a few more things like they were flying into a storm, whereas we flew out of one last week. Her and her boyfriend would be getting married soon. She encouraged me to find that exact sweatsuit she'd been wearing because it was chic and comfy. And she said that she was sorry for running from me. I told her that we're all good. I'm just thankful we both survived. And I'll tell you something else. I'm using the bathroom in the airport, not on the airplanes from now on. And last, I pray that I never switch realities again. So that, my friends, was a collection of some parallel universe stories, an alternate universe, alternate timeline, however you want to call those, because these stories are always kind of slightly ambiguous in what I should title them. And that's a weird way to put it, I know. How would the stories know what I should title them, right? That's up to me. My thumbnail says parallel universe, and that's what we're going to stick with because that's what I've done in the past. So, yeah. Some strange parallel universe stories, bizarre parallel universe stories, kind of a subset of Glitch in the Matrix stories, in my opinion. Definitely some odd stuff. Yeah. Basically, these are like the Glitch stories that I do, where it's like shifting timelines, alternate timeline kind of stuff. I do those in the Glitch collection sometimes, but then I get like a handful of these, like all 5 of these were submitted directly to me. So I figured why not make a video with these ones specifically, right? Worst case scenario, y'all don't listen to it, but you will, probably. I mean, that's kind of a little self-centered of me to say. Those of you who enjoy the Glitch stories will likely listen to this video. And if you're listening to this point, I don't think I really need to explain that, because you're still listening. I'm silly. I don't know what's wrong with me. A lot of things. Anyways, yeah, these stories are some interesting stuff. Very bizarre, glitch-like stories, in my opinion, and I absolutely enjoy them. So, hopefully you did too. If you happen to enjoy them, consider hitting the thumbs up button, the like button, if you will. Consider subscribing to the channel if you liked what you heard and would like more. I do a lot of these. I do. I always have. Sorry, I just did something I wasn't trying to do on my spreadsheet. Anyways, yeah, I do a lot of weird stories. Strange and scary stories is what we do here, so. You can also leave a comment if you're feeling so inclined. I'd appreciate it. Your thoughts. What you think of these stories. Do you enjoy them? Do you not? If not, what would you prefer? Let me know that as well. Yeah. Don't really have much else to say. Oh. Join Patreon. I guess I really should say everything. I just write down what I need to say, but I also don't like scripting this, so. Join Patreon and memberships, get early access to content like this. Super thanks as a tip to the channel. Super chats whenever I'm live, which will be this Friday probably. Help out the channel as well. I also have some signed posters down the coffee link. That's ko-fi down below in the description. Those posters, all proceeds on them, all money that I make off those, are going to go to hopefully help self-publish my novel once I'm done with it, which I'm getting close. Getting very close. A few more chapters left, and I think we'll be good to go. I think I'll have the full story done. I have it planned out. Just a matter of actually writing the words at this point, so. I know some people are looking forward to that. And if you're one of those people, thank you. If not, that's totally okay. Yeah. You can listen elsewhere. Audible, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts. Google Podcasts doesn't exist anymore, so. Ton of places, though. I don't remember all of them. I think that's about it. Yeah. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Hope I see you again here very soon. But until then, remember that you are loved, that you are valid, that you are important. Hope you remember that. Hope you don't forget it. Hope you don't let anyone tell you anything else or otherwise. And until next time, my friends, much love and sleep well.